This episode of Bankless is brought to you by YEARN. YEARN is a yield farming money robot to do the yield farming in DeFi so you don't have to. YEARN has various products like Vaults or Earn, where in Vaults you can deposit your preferred DeFi token, and DeFi experts have written strategies for this token that you deposit to go and find yield automatically in DeFi. Earn is that same thing, but with stablecoins, where the Earn system will move your stablecoins around from protocol to seek yield from whatever DeFi protocol is offering the most amount of yield at that particular time. Check them out at yearn.finance. A fantastic tool to help you live a bankless life comes from MONOLITH. MONOLITH is a smart contract wallet on Ethereum, but it comes linked with a Visa crypto card that links right into the DAI in your smart contract wallet. So it's really spanning both worlds, using smart contract wallets on Ethereum and also a Visa card to purchase groceries or live your life. And so it's a great way to live a bankless life without having to, give up all the normal things that you would need to purchase to live that life. Check them out at monolith.xyz and get your Monolith Visa card sent to you today. ZAPPER is a tool I've been using to help me track my portfolio and all of my wallets across DeFi. You can plug in your addresses into the zapper.fi dashboard, and ZAPPER will give you a report as to all of the assets that you own and where you've placed them in DeFi. You can also invest right through the ZAPPER portal. So if you just don't want to go to all the different URLs for all of your favorite preferred DeFi protocols in order to stick your assets inside of them, you can just go to zapper.fi and click on where you want your assets to go. You can also add multiple wallets in case you use multiple wallets, and you can add them all into one seamless portfolio view by adding multiple wallets in ZAPPER. Check them out at zapper.fi. Unstoppable Domains is where we get human readable blockchain domain names that are also completely censorship resistant. One of the really important features about Unstoppable Domains is that you can set up a website that has a domain that any nation state cannot take down. Really important for being a self-sovereign individual in this world. Additionally, what's also insanely cool about Unstoppable Domains is that Bitcoiners or any other blockchain can use Unstoppable Domains to make their Bitcoin address human readable, right? So no longer is this just technology built on Ethereum. Now Unstoppable Domains brings this to all other blockchains. So you can tell your Bitcoiner friend to send you money to davidhoffman.eth or yournamehere.crypto. Check them out at unstoppabledomains.com. Okay, here we go. We are recording. Whenever you're ready.
All right, welcome everyone to the Weekly Rollup. This is our second Weekly Rollup. David, I'm super excited. This is the third rollup of October. Happy Friday morning to you guys who are looking on YouTube, watching us on YouTube, and also on the live stream. David, how are you doing this morning?
Absolutely fantastic. Ready to run through some of the news that's happened in the last week, injecting it straight into your brain in a nice little package all rolled up for you.
Perfect. Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing in this segment. Comes out Friday morning hot. And what we do is we dedicate 5 minutes to 5 topics. We cover the market, number 1, releases, news, takes, and then we end with what we are excited about and what's happening in general. So 5 topics, 5 minutes each. We get it in your head in 25 minutes. The schedule is every Friday. So every Friday morning, both on YouTube, where you can see the visuals that accompany this, and also the podcast. David, you ready to get started, man?
Let's round them up. We're rolling it up.
All right.
We're doing it.
Round them up and roll them up. We are starting with the market. What is the market saying? I feel like it might be good things, David. Shall we start with Bitcoin? We have 5 minutes.
Yeah, the market is saying we're going up and to the right. At the time of speaking, Bitcoin is $13,200, which is a higher number than what it was last week. And this has just been on the heels of a bunch of bullish news, some of which we will talk about, and some of which is just like a lot of people in the legacy world really seem to be figuring out Bitcoin, right? This is a hammer I've been beating, or a drum I've been beating for a while. People are learning how to resonate with Bitcoin's value proposition, and understanding Bitcoin as a whole is bullish for Bitcoin.
Yeah, this is a move that is actually highest year to date as well. So we're highest year to date for Bitcoin, pretty impressive. And it felt like, sometimes people ask about price move, like, why did it happen? And often when I'm asked that, I'm just like, I have no idea. It's crypto. It's sort of a random walk, but this felt like it was maybe precipitated by some news, particularly the PayPal news, which I know we're going to get to in a moment. Is that your take as well?
Yeah, it is, but also no. PayPal is the news of the week, but Bitcoin's bullish for news other than that, right? There's plenty of other reasons to be bullish, and I think that PayPal is, there's a lot of attention in the media. It's extremely validating, and it's definitely relevant. But we were going to get to this point, at some point sooner or later. It's just with the PayPal news just made that happen sooner.
Yeah, got it. Okay, let's talk ETH chart too. So ETH is also having a fairly good week. We're at 417. What's your take on ETH price?
Yeah, the Twitter and market commentaries from people have been really interesting. As DeFi assets and yield farming has kind of deflated, the narrative was that DeFi assets are rotating into Bitcoin, and as DeFi assets went down, Bitcoin was going up. And this recent move by Ether from like just 390 to 417, where it is today, is a really strong return punch to Bitcoin if we are thinking about things in an adversarial way, which we don't necessarily have to. However, when it comes to leading the market, it looks like people were getting ready for Bitcoin to lead the market, but Ether is hot on its heels, if not keeping up and even going faster.
All right, so 417, of course, this is as of Thursday. Things could change by Friday morning when you are listening to this a little bit. But let's talk about some other metrics that are a bit more, I guess, constant, less fleeting. And that is Ethereum is actually seeing an all-time high in active addresses. So we've talked about before, David, each active address roughly corresponds to not necessarily a user, but to like a bank account. An ETH address is similar to a bank account. So it could represent a large number of users, large number of capital pools. What does this mean? Total active addresses at all-time high for Ethereum, higher than 2017.
Yeah, this is a really timely piece of news to come out right on the heels of MetaMask's 1 million monthly active users that they registered. Check out the State of the Nation that we did with Jacob Cantel earlier this week for more news on that. But it just seems to be that like people are learning to use Ethereum. There are reasons to get onto Ethereum, and like you said, one active address is not necessarily like it could be the same owner as another active address, but it does, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. Like all-time high in active addresses is all-time high in active addresses. When we look at Ethereum and when we look at its fundamentals, we look at its economic activity, and active addresses are economic activity.
Another indicator of economic activity is the amount of value that the network settles. So these are financial networks. Bitcoin is a financial network. It primarily just settles Bitcoin, so value denominated in Bitcoin. Ethereum can settle value denominated in Ether, but also value denominated in other assets as well. And if you convert all the settlement value to dollars, what you get is a pretty impressive pace for Ethereum. So Ethereum is on pace to settle over $1 trillion worth of value in 2020. That's pretty phenomenal. And it's overtaken Bitcoin in this by a lot. So like its run rate is beating Bitcoin. What does that mean?
Yeah, that's exactly what Ethereum is supposed to do. It's supposed to be a host of generalized economic activity. Where Bitcoin is really good at settling Bitcoins, Ethereum is really good at settling everything else. And I'm not really sure that there's a lot of news about crypto, but it's mainly Bitcoin in mainstream. I'm not sure that like people are learning about Ethereum's capabilities quite yet. And when that wave of people comes, when PayPal leverages stable coins or crypto dollars, not just Bitcoin and ETH on their platforms, as like remittance payments, and Cash App also integrate stable coins. Like there's so much more adoption to be had with leveraging Ethereum's economic activity as a platform. And the fact that we're already ahead of Bitcoin is insane. I can't imagine where we're going to be when all these companies integrate stablecoins.
Yeah, Bitcoin is in second place in terms of the value it settles on its network. Pretty impressive for Ethereum. Total value locked. We'll just look at this briefly because we've got to move on. It's up 12.4 billion locked in DeFi protocols. The amount of ETH locked is a little bit down, but still we're tracking at about 9 million Ether supply locked in DeFi. So super impressive. David, let's jump to releases.
Section 2.
Yeah, section 2. So we got 5 minutes for this. What got released last week?
Well, obviously the big news is that PayPal is now open to cryptocurrencies, which there's a lot of takes to be had here. First off, there's the very obvious take that this is awesome and bullish and yay adoption. And that's exactly what the markets are saying. You can now, if you are a merchant that uses PayPal, your customers can pay you in Bitcoin or in Ether, right? We just had a comment from a Bankless Nation member in the Bankless Discord that talked about how grateful he was that he was able to purchase like the Bankless newsletter with crypto, right? Because if he didn't have that option, he wouldn't have any other option to purchase it, right? And what PayPal is doing with crypto is it's allowing unbanked people to use their Ethereum bank account, to use their Bitcoin bank account to pay for things inside of the PayPal network, which is, I mean, that's just really exciting. And it's also extremely legitimizing of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies at large.
I think you're about to give maybe a downside take though as well, because that exists as well. So we get adoption, that's a plus. Also, I saw 2021, they're talking about rolling it out in Venmo. Everybody I know, at least in my area, they use Venmo all of the time. So this is definitely adoption of, it's not just Bitcoin, it's Bitcoin, Ether, and some other crypto assets as well, like Litecoin and Bitcoin Cash, who cares? But that's pretty bullish, but there is a flip side to this in that it's not bankless, right?
Yeah, it's a walled garden, right? And so there's also a philosophical question to have here, because like you can't purchase Bitcoin or Ether with PayPal yet, but like even if they can, they don't let you send your received crypto as a merchant or as a customer. They don't let you send your received crypto to your own external wallet, right? And this is exactly what Jake Chervinsky was talking about forever ago when he was on the Bankless State of the Nation, is that what he is worried about is that regulation is going to put up walled gardens around these entities that can leverage crypto, leverage Bitcoin, leverage Ethereum in their own like centralized way, right? And so they have their own internal ledgers, just like Coinbase has their own internal ledgers. But think about Coinbase, except it doesn't let you withdraw your crypto, right? And so you can only send Bitcoin to other PayPal accounts, which is just like the same system that we already have, right? And so, tip of the hat for PayPal for getting this out the door. And I hope they continue to break down those walled gardens. I know that they need to be careful when they put their foot out into the unknown with something like this. But if we want to like enable a bankless world, we need them to break down those walled gardens and allow us to send Bitcoin and Ether out of their platform.
All right. Well, I have a spicy take on this, but we'll save that for later. Let's talk about other releases. The next is Barnbridge. So what is Barnbridge?
Barnbridge is a really interesting protocol that is allowing the stratification of risk across different tranches, right? And so the way this basically works is that there are two or more parties that have different claims on yield from DeFi protocols, specifically with stablecoins, right? And so very, very simply, the way that this works is you can buy into the senior tranche and get locked in at like 5% interest rate. And then you can get into the junior tranche, which is the tranche that fluctuates, right? So maybe the interest rate in a DeFi protocol fluctuates from 4% all the way to 9%. Well, if that interest rate fluctuation goes up to 9%, the senior tranche gets the bottom 5%, and then the junior tranche gets like what's left, right? But it also pays in the instance where the interest rate got under the senior tranche rate at 5%, maybe it averaged out at 4%. The junior tranche rate actually pays 1% interest rate to the senior tranche. The important point is that it stratifies risk and it tokenizes it and separates it. And this is a very legacy money Lego that we now have available on Ethereum.
Very cool. And I know DeFi Dad has a tutorial you can use on the Bankless YouTube to try that out. So check that out if you're looking to learn more. David, we're running a little short on time on releases, but I want to get to the CirclesUBI concept. So what is that? That launched this week as well, actually late last week. And people have been going crazy, at least in the DeFi sector. Lots of DMs like verify me on Circle. UBI, Universal Basic Income is of course what UBI stands for. What is that?
Yeah, so it's a combination of a decentralized identity system like a Bright ID and a token that it has credit, is a credit system as well. I'm actually less familiar with the tokenomics, but it starts off as a decentralized identity system, which is why you saw people on Twitter saying, hey, will you verify me? Hey, will you verify me? Because the only way that decentralized identity works is by a network of interrelated people that can vouch for each other. And then when you get your three people to vouch for you, you get your first initial distribution of Circle coin. But it's not like these things aren't fungible because your circles are different from other people's circles. And I don't know much more about it other than that, but your circles are valued dependent on your network of people, and they're not exactly the same value as what other people's circles are.
I know the coin itself inflates at about a 7% issuance rate per year too. So the idea is to have some sort of community-based money. The cool thing about this is it was launched on XDAI, not on the main chain, which I hope we'll get back to. David, we could also talk about Yield Protocol, which had a cool launch this week. MetaMask swaps, of course, we'll include links to those in the show notes. Lots of cool releases to keep up with. But let's get to the news. What's happening in the news this week? Do you want to start with Fincen?
Yeah, Fincen went after a Bitcoin mixing service. This was a centralized mixing service that allowed people to mix up their Bitcoins for privacy, right? This is very similar to Tornado Cash, except for the fact that it was done by a centralized company, not a protocol, right? And so this is exactly the same reason why BitMEX was such a big deal, right? The same charge of violating the Bank Secrecy Act, like allowing and enabling a centralized entity, enabling people to launder money. This is what the regulators really don't want. And this is also why we DeFi, because this is exactly what Tornado Cash does, but Tornado Cash is a protocol that you can't stop. And Coin and Ninja or whoever these people are that got snagged, we're a centralized company.
Yeah, so it's a $60 million penalty against the developer and owner of Coin Ninja, Larry Dean Harmon. But I have to wonder, like, are they going to be coming? Are they going to be coming after the protocol devs as something like Tornado soon, or do you think we're immune from that? I suppose that requires somebody like Jake to weigh in. It is concerning, though. It does feel like the nation state, the final boss, as we call it, is kind of peering its eye over to what's happening in crypto. I guess we'll have to see how that emerges. Maybe let's jump to something good on the privacy front, which is shielded Zcash transactions. That hit a high recently, right?
Yeah, an all-time high, and that's really important for privacy on Zcash, because if you have the way the Zcash works is there are two types of transactions. One is just a simple send, just like a Bitcoin transaction, and one is a shielded transaction, which has certain components of the transaction hidden. And privacy with the way Zcash works is these private transactions only work when there are other private transactions to hide amongst, right? You need to hide inside of a crowd of transactions. And what we are seeing with this all-time high in shielded Zcash transactions is we are seeing high liquidity of privacy on Zcash. So Zcash is finally getting to the point where its product is maturing in a way that allows people to use it in a private manner.
Yeah, I love Zcash. God bless Zcash. It does feel at some level that there's sort of a test net for tech that could be built in Ethereum and even Bitcoin at some level. Like I feel like this on a sidechain or this incorporated into Aztec could be super bullish on the Ethereum main chain or in a layer 2. Either way, really cool that people are valuing shielded transactions. Let's talk about central bank digital currencies too. Raoul Pal from Real Vision put out a really important thread on this and really essential thread on this, basically saying, if you don't think central digital currencies are coming, you're totally missing the boat here. They are coming. They're maybe starting in China. What's your take on this news?
Yeah, this thread came hot on the heels of the IMF calling for a second Bretton Woods moment, which maybe just signals kind of what kind of situation the world economic status is in when we are calling for a revisitation of Bretton Woods. And for those that don't know, Bretton Woods was when the world got together and decided to reorganize the entire monetary and financial system. So like big words. And
they basically in that meeting made US dollars king. At that point.
That's where US dollar became king, right? Exactly. That's exactly right. And so what Raoul Pal is saying is that, what's going on behind the scenes with the world macro environment, whatever it is, it's pointing towards central bank digital currencies. And, there's an important nuance where, central bank digital currencies are not crypto. They're not cryptocurrencies. They are a centralized ledger with a digital format. Maybe it's a blockchain, but it's not a cryptocurrency. But what it does is it opens up people's acceptance and understanding of the real thing, right? It's a gateway drug.
Yeah, so it's kind of like the PayPal case, a little bit good and a little bit bad, maybe a little bit good for usage. Raoul Paul makes the point where in the end, this could cost the US dollar, not in the short run, he's very bullish on that, but it could cost the US dollar its reserve currency status. David, we're getting close on time for news. Do you want to maybe end with the Coinbase report on what we're talking about, the nation state? Coinbase released a transparency report that actually made clear which government agencies have been asking for further information about individuals or about transactions. And what were some of your takeaways from that transparency report?
Yeah, first and foremost, I would say that this is, while this is in the news cycle, this happened last week, this isn't that big of a deal. It's just something I think that people should keep an eye on. Like, this is a thing that is a reality. Coinbase is a centralized company inside the US, and if they need to give up information to authorities, they will do that, right? And so tip of the hat for Coinbase for being transparent about it and telling us what information requests are coming in. So, just as a user, if you use Coinbase, just know that these requests happen. And it's one of those, it's definitely one of those things that, if you're not doing anything wrong, then this really isn't relevant to you. But just know that your information could be requested.
58% of all requests coming from the US, the majority of those from the FBI. The FBI is definitely watching what goes on in Coinbase. All right, David, that's been the news. Takes. What's on your mind?
If people have been following me on Twitter and on the Bankless show, they know what's been on my mind. The dominant for crypto and Bitcoin specifically have been falling faster and faster and faster. And this PayPal domino, the most recent one, is just the most recent one. And I bet you it's going to, I don't know what's going to happen next week, but I bet you it's going to be something. We have the election debate tonight. Maybe we're going to talk about relief. There's a stimulus coming along the way. It just seems like, and the thing that's on my mind is that there always seems to be like this elegant relationship between like the price chart of an asset, the market, the news and summary around that, and just the overall sentiment, and all these things kind of just resonate with each other. And to me, what I'm seeing is a complete resonance between the narrative behind Bitcoin, the news behind Bitcoin, and the fundamentals behind Bitcoin. All these things really seem to be resonating, and that's why we're going up and to the right.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I've been thinking about, right? So on Counted Takes is maybe dovetails with what you're saying. I totally get what you're saying with Bitcoin, and that is super bullish on the space and on Bitcoin, particularly in the short term. But I want to give maybe a spicy take here, and people who know I guess my Twitter account too. This shouldn't come as a surprise, but I think that Bitcoin is really preparing the way for Ethereum, and specifically Ether, the assets that we talked about earlier. Second place in settlement fees. That's now Bitcoin. It's already second place in transaction fees. That means Ethereum is doing more in transaction fees than Bitcoin. And it's second place now in transaction volume as well. So like there's a trend here, second place, second place, second place, second place. But Bitcoin is far and away first place in market cap. I don't think that'll last long term. And when I say long term, I'm not saying, hey, David, flipping is imminent, right? It's happening 12 months, 24 months. I'm not sure the time range on this. I think it'll take ETH2 to ship. I think it'll take realization as to what Ethereum's monetary policy actually is, and realization of ETH, the asset. But my spicy take here is that Bitcoin is doing awesome, and I'm super excited about Bitcoin, but it's really just like a prophet preparing the way for the Messiah. It's really preparing the way for Ether. I guess another take like that is sort of a side quest on that is I hear so much misinformation from Bitcoiners and like not understanding what I would say is like the rest of crypto. So even this term that is constantly used, that's sort of embedded in crypto psyche, this term of altcoin, right? So there's Bitcoin and then there's altcoins, implying there's like Bitcoin and the shit coins. But like, I don't think there's any such thing as an altcoin. That was like a paradigm from 2015 that I feel like is no longer relevant. What we have now are asset superclasses, just like traditional finance. As we've known, as we've talked about
for hundreds of years.
For hundreds of years. And those asset superclasses in crypto are capital assets. We have crypto capital assets, crypto commodities, crypto monies. These are not altcoins.
Right.
These are entirely different than altcoins. It's like saying like Apple stock is an altcoin of US dollars. Like it's an altcoin of gold. No, it's a stock. It's a capital asset. You're comparing a money to a capital asset. It's just such a backward way of thinking. And I feel like those with the wrong paradigm and wrong mentality are going to get left behind in the next bull cycle.
Yeah,
that's my spicy take.
That is a spicy take. And the altcoin perspective was extremely appropriate when Bitcoin was getting forked with like menial changes, like change up the block speed and like, sure, that's an alt.
Litecoin. That's
exactly.
an alt.
Litecoin, like Bitcoin, like Diamond, whatever. That's an alt. If it's an alternative to Bitcoin, yes, but Ethereum and tokens on Ethereum are not alternatives to Bitcoin. So kind of going back to what you were saying about, second place in transaction fees, Bitcoin second place in transaction volume, Bitcoin second place in settlement value. It is worthwhile to note that like the whole point about Bitcoin though is being first place in market cap. That's true. That is its job, which it is currently in first place. And I think it's going to be a story for the ages, whether or not Ethereum as the leader in all the other categories, literally every other category other than market cap, does that mean that if Ether becomes number one in market cap, or does Bitcoin fulfill its job as all it needs to do is be number one in market cap?
That's going to be a fun story to win. Yeah, if Bitcoin wins that 2-horse race, it'll be because of the strength of its scarcity meme. We will be sure. To be clear, we are bullish on both of these assets. David, let's get to the last portion. What are you excited about, man? So 3rd week of October, year of our Lord 2020. What is exciting crypto right now?
Well, we just came out of the AMA with Danny Ryan, where we got some of the questions about ETH2 that we really wanted to hear out of the way. Go listen to that AMA. It was fantastic, but it just made me really excited about the deposit contract. Every time I pull up Twitter and I hit refresh, I'm like, is it here? Like,
this is the staking contract, right? Same day.
Yes. Same diff. Yeah, this is where phase 1 goes live. This is where ETH staking is a thing, where staking becomes one of the core pillars of Ether value accrual. And every time I check my email, my Twitter, whatever, I'm waiting for that announcement, like deposit contract announced.
All right, what's your gut? Like, given we talked to Danny this week, who's like, he knows, right, more than anybody. And Vitalik this week. What's your gut on when staking contract ships will be able to stake ETH?
I'm going to be very specific, and I'm going to say a week from Monday.
A week from Monday? Wait, what date is that?
That is going to be November 2nd.
You think November 2nd?
Announced, and it'll be announced.
Announced. Okay, perfect.
The day will be announced on November 2nd.
And you think the actual date that it happens still this year, November, December?
It'll be in November, yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna guess before Christmas, early December is my guess.
God, it's so
both pretty bullish guesses.
You're the bearish one.
2 weeks different. I guess I'm the bear now. ETH2 will never ship.
Not until Christmas.
Yeah. Christmas 2020, to be clear, not 2021, guys. All right, cool. Well, all right, so here's kind of what I'm excited about, and maybe this dovetails with another sort of Ethereum thing, but what I started seeing this week for the first time is projects launching directly not on Ethereum mainnet, but on Ethereum layer 2. Like, so generally throughout the history of Ethereum, the place you launch a DeFi project or some new initiative is definitely going to be main chain, right? That's where you launch. But we saw 3 different projects this week launch on XDAI, which is actually like a side chain of Ethereum. So it's proof of authority. So it's not quite an optimistic roll up. It's not based on the security of Ethereum altogether, but it's similar. It runs the EVM. It's like a copy of mainnet. And we saw HoneySwap launch there. So if you haven't heard of HoneySwap, I barely heard of it either, but it is a Uniswap clone, right? So they just launched a Uniswap. They forked a Uniswap and they put it on XDAI, and it's a new project that's launching not on mainnet, but on the sidechain. CirclesUBI, the project we were talking about earlier, David, that launched directly on XDAI. Also, the POAP, the Pope tokens, these are the Bankless. Bankless uses this as well. Now, when you mint a POAP, that's an NFT token, you mint that on XDAI, and then you can bridge it over to mainnet. I think this is the future of scalability for Ethereum. If you don't need mainnet you just launch on a
Okay.
layer 2. That's
Mhm.
some sort of a roll-up. That's some sort of an XDAI-like side chain. And then to the extent you need layer 2, or if it gets popular, or if you're a user and you want to migrate back to the main chain, you can at any time. So that to me is how Ethereum scales, and that's kind of bullish. And it goes off maybe what we were talking about in the podcast with Vitalik in terms of how Ethereum is going to take shape in the future. There's going to be a main chain, and there's going to be all of these layer 2s where you might not touch main chain, right? For like months or years. You might do all of your activity in a roll-up, a few roll-ups maybe in the future. So excited about that. It's coming to fruition. Feels like Ethereum has a scalability strategy that is not just pie in the sky. It's actually starting to happen.
Yeah, Anthony Cesano illustrates it as Ethereum as a nexus, right? Where it's just like traffic controlling, value from different rollups, right? And this is part of Ethereum's value proposition, where Ethereum, people don't even need to know what Ethereum is or understand it as a protocol. In the same ways that we don't really need to know what TCP/IP or SMS or those protocols, like we just use them, right? And they're just in the background. And Ethereum being the L1 and L2s being the place that people actually engage in, have activity in, is just putting Ethereum in the background and letting it do its job.
Absolutely. Very cool. David, we kept our commitment. This is about 25 minutes. We got through 5 topics, 5 minutes each. We talked about market. We talked about releases, news, some hot takes, and what we're excited about. Guys, hope you enjoyed this episode. Hopefully it was a good end to your week. From David and Ryan, enjoy your weekend. And thanks a lot for joining us.